Well, that'll
It's a bit raucous, but
put a smile
don't
on
you
your
just
face,
don't you just love that V8? I love it.
That's stunning. That's stunning.
Well, welcome to a new Dave's Classic Garage Tours video, and it's boys and their toys, as they say. Danny here has certainly had his fair share of them, but it wasn't until more recent times that he's fulfilled a lifelong ambition of owning a true British icon, no matter what some might say.
Tell you what, that's something you don't see on Johnny Smith's barn finds or any of those man caves. There's an electric door on the sheds, do you, back in the UK?
No,
it's crazy how they are so common here, but you never see. You know, you'd have to be a multi-millionaire to have an electronic door on your shed back home.
Yeah, and we take things for this granted in 2024, but
anyway, this is Danny.
Yep.
And Danny has got my dream. Well, certainly my first favourite car. And you know what? I'm less embarrassed to say anything that it is my favourite car nowadays, because they're certainly getting a resurgence. Let's go step in there, but Danny, so to get you out the sun. So yeah, Danny, tell us a bit about your story with this car.
this was something I wanted to have as a kid growing up back in the 70s, watching the likes of Per Eklund and Terry Cabey and Tony Pond driving these things was something I loved, because they looked different and they sounded completely different to your Escorts and your Talbot Sunbeams and your Vauxhall Chevettes, which ran Lotus engines, apart from the Ford, obviously. And
Which were all good sounding engines.
Oh, they did sound good. I'm not knocking them at all. But this was different.
Yes.
For today at Abingdon on the banks of the sleepy River Thames, BL's Special Tuning Division, once a home for the great European rally-winning Healey's and the diminutive but potent Minis which followed them, is now home for Britain's most powerful rally cars, the 3.5-litre V8-engined Triumph TR7s. The arrival of one of Britain's premier sports cars onto a rallying stage dominated for years by Ford has kindled tremendous interest both at home and overseas. The squat, low-slung machines in their patriotic red, white and blue livery have, in the short space of 2 years, been developed into a powerful force as tarmac rally cars. The car's handling on asphalt surfaces has proved to be its forte, and in June last year, Tony Pond shook the European rally world at the historic battleground of Ypres in Belgium.
The only other thing that caught my fancy as a kid growing up was a Lancia Stratos, the V6 Ferrari, and this was as close as what I could get to. I mean, if I was a multi-millionaire, I'd love to have a Lancia Stratos, but I've got to be realistic. I just love the shape, love the noise that they make, and it was something I've wanted for a very long time. Background is four-wheel drive. Mini was my first rally car with my dad back in the late 70s, early 80s, my late father. And then progressed on to a whole load of other cars. And I've always had rally cars in my life, along with my dad. And this was something I've always wanted. I thought I could walk away from the sport 2003. I thought, well, you know what? I'm getting a bit old for this caper now, and been there, done that, etc., etc. But no, I had to have one of these cars.
Sure,
and I went looking for one in 2012, and I didn't find one till 2013.
Right.
And
not a rally car at that point.
No, it was a road car, and I bought it up in Sydney and drove it back to Melbourne, and the heater didn't work.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
And it was in the middle of it was in the middle of winter, and it was a very cold drive home.
Oh, cold one. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not like today. 38. It's 37. Sorry, it's reading on my dashboard.
Yes, it's a stinker out there today.
Yeah,
so
there we go. Australian sun.
But then I brought it home and I thought, okay, what rally do I want to do with this? And back then there used to be an event called the Classic Outback Trial, which was a big adventure, multi-day rally. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 k's long, and it used to run in Central Australia and Queensland and New South Wales and stuff like that. And I thought this would be perfect to have one of these.
Absolutely.
Not wanting to win the event, just to go and compete, do the event, and enjoy the car.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the journey began.
So tell me about the state. Yeah, but what sort of state was it in when you bought it?
It was, I just got a bare shell.
Oh, right.
Just a bare shell on an A-frame that somebody had started to restore
Yeah.
and repair. I'm not sure of the history. But
What year is the shell? What year
the
is
shell is a 78.
Right.
1978.
Yeah, early job there.
And yeah, it sat in somebody's barn for
Right.
years and years and years. And I got hold of it, brought it home and thought, okay, I'm going to make this into a rally car.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the project began.
Right. Yeah, sure.
So,
And so tell us about that process.
well, the first thing I did,
Well, yeah, come on, from the start.
I started a research where I could get bits and pieces for, and the best place that I found to get bits and pieces was Rimmer Brothers back in England.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, so I spent a fair bit of loot with those guys, getting bits and pieces for it.
Absolutely.
And there was also a guy down in the south of England, close to Goodwood.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he got the fiberglass bonnet and the guards and bits and pieces, and I bought them from him and brought them out.
Spent a nice bit of shipping as well.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of loot spent getting bits and pieces across from the UK.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The engine obviously is a V8 3.5 litre aluminium Oldsmobile engine.
Right.
So I got a lot of stuff out of the States, out of America.
Buick,
for this.
aren't they?
I think it was Oldsmobile or yeah.
No, it's Buick.
It could be Buick.
Yeah, it's
It
Buick.
could be Buick. Yeah.
Yeah, they bought it for,
All I know is it cost me a shitload of money buying stuff out of America for it because the Yanks weren't interested.
Right, really. So, and they weren't, because essentially it's the Rover 3.5, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was only a 3.5 litre.
Yeah.
So they just weren't interested in a small block.
No, exactly.
I mean, growing up back in the UK, if you had a 2 litre Escort, you had a big block rally car.
Absolutely, yeah.
And a
But
three-
why did you go to the US to get those parts? I mean, there's plenty of
There is
Rover
bit-
SD1s engines.
In England,
Yeah.
yep. But to get the right pistons for the thing, and it uses I used Chev Conrod,
Right.
Conrods, 6-inch Conrods,
Yeah.
which were an I-beam.
Okay.
The pistons come from the United States.
Yeah.
They're a flat top. The rings came from the United States. The lifters, because it runs hydraulic lifters rather than roller rockers, which are too big and they take up too much space. And
Sure.
plus, the original ones didn't have roller rockers.
Right.
They just had hydraulic lifters and they had Webbers.
Yeah. So what's your background then? You're obviously speaking from a
Automotive engineering.
right.
I learned from my dad. He worked in the British Leyland tuning department in Cowley and was involved with the Works Minis with Rayno Altonen, Paddy Hopkirk.
Oh, well, we can see where the
And
you don't
that's
fall,
where the
apple
passion-
doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah.
And that's where the passion came from. And indeed, our very, very first rally car was a Mini Cooper S back in Ireland. And my dad financed it for me, but I had to do all the work.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to work on stuff. And hence my passion for British Leyland cars.
Absolutely.
And here we are in Australia now with one of these. There is a few other people in Australia that have these cars, but they're using General Motors and Holden bits and pieces in them.
Before we go any further, you'll have seen this is a Dave's Classic Garage Tours V2 channel video. It's over there that I have all the rest of the world cars, i.e. not Aussie Ford, Holden or Chrysler designed and built stuff. So to keep up on everything from Euro and US Fords to Ferraris, make sure you head over and subscribe on the V2 channel as well as here for plenty more videos to come.
The original ones had a 3.5 litre engine, and that's what I wanted to have. And they only had a pair of Webbers rather than 4 Webbers.
Right.
So that's what this has got.
Okay. And so this is what a bit the first livery for a TR7.
V8, a V8. Well, the Brian Colcheth ran a 2 litre one.
Right. Okay.
And with the Sprinter engine in it.
Yeah.
And the first time this had a V8 engine in it was with Tony Pond.
Right. Okay.
And that's
in this livery.
in this livery,
Oh, wow.
yeah. The
Okay.
bonnet's not finished yet. I'm waiting for Paul Mollison from Golly Photographics, who does all the retro rally signage and stickers. He's been down and measured the car last week.
Right. Okay.
So we can get it back into the way it was.
So presumably we're 5 days out from retro rally. He might be a bit busy at the moment.
Yeah. He is very busy, but he does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's got a great reputation as a photographer and sign writer.
Yeah.
Or sticker maker.
Okay.
So what's been the, you know, what were the, you know, difficult parts? What were the, to source? What was the difficult parts to fix? What was the difficult... Tell us about the trials and tribulations of putting together this car.
The biggest thing was sourcing the parts, and also with what I was doing for a job at the time meant that I was spending a lot of time away.
Right.
And so I didn't have every weekend in the shed to do anything at all. So yeah, it took a long time. And
another thing we're blessed here, you can see in Australia, is with decent sized garages around.
The shed.
Sorry,
it's called a shed.
They call it a shed. Yeah. We call it a bloody mansion for a garage back home, wouldn't we?
Yeah, well, you put probably 2 cars in this, and there'd be a bed sitting in the
2 cars
corner.
and a mini. Yeah.
So very, very fortunate and lucky to have this space to work on it.
We are. Not like
and of course, being an old fart, I need carpet on the floors.
Oh yes.
Because the cold concrete's not that nice to grovel around on underneath. It's not high enough to put a 2-poster hoist in, so everything has to get done on jacks and stands and what have you.
Would that have had that back home?
This, no. This is something that we use here in Australia because it's so hot, and we want to get air into the car, and plus also we want to keep the dust out of the car.
Absolutely.
So a device like this, this is actually off a Toyota Dyna truck, believe it or not.
Okay.
And it pressurizes the cabin, and it keeps the dust out, and it also brings fresh air into the car. Yeah. And at the back here, we've got some louvers to let the pressurized air out the back. These little flaps here allow the pressurized air to get out and keep us all cooling and try and keep the dust out of the car. But
so have you done much desert sand stuff on it with this?
It's a bit of a tragic story, really. We got the car ready in 2018, and we went up to Alice Springs, and we arranged for 3 weeks to go and do it. And it was a bit rushed, and I had a great bunch of guys helping me. Glenn Watson from Geelong, who did all the gearboxes. He's got a business called Shiftworks, and he did the gearboxes for me. Ed Lee, Malcolm Olbra, my good lady wife, Andrew Baxter is another guy that came and spent a lot of time helping get the car ready to go to Alice Springs. And then, of course, there was the guy that was going to navigate for me, a guy called Lucas Zinteg, who runs another business down in Moorabbin. And he put a ton of effort in the last 6 months, and contributed a fair bit financially as well to get us up there, because it was a pretty expensive event. And we got the service vehicles together, and we towed everything up to Alice Springs and got up there with a week to spare so we could get acclimatised and finish putting mud flaps on and bedding brakes in and doing all the last minute stuff. And the night before the start, it spun a cam bearing. And that was it, no oil pressure. And we spent a lot of time trying to rectify that before the start, but unfortunately we never started the event. So back on the trailer, back home. I had a bit of a sulk for a while, and I locked it in the shed and I wouldn't talk to it, as you do. And then eventually we pulled it to pieces and we fixed it and got it up and running. And it was just one of those things where a brand new engine, cam bearing, decided that it wasn't going to stay in place, and it did a lot of damage. It destroyed the crank and the cam and the timing gears and a lot of So it was another rebuild to get the engine back up and running again.
So that was 2018.
2018, and I got it running again 2019 after I finished sulking about the fact that it didn't behave itself.
I'm never having a British car again. Sod the bloody.
Well, there were so many people came and rubbed that in. There was a lot of people who came along and go, "Why are you wasting your time? You used to have great Subarus back in the day." I love my Subarus, and I've got a great affinity with the brand, and I've had 5 or 6 of them as rally cars, Group A and Group N. And had great success with the cars, and they were reliable as. But Murphy's Law, as they say, led me to ending up with this beauty. And when it's going, it is an absolute weapon to drive. It's really incredibly difficult to drive on gravel. because it's just got too much grunt.
Right.
And wheel spin, I mean, you look at the throttle pedal and you break into wheel spin. The last event that we went and did last month, we went down there and we just couldn't figure out why we were so slow. So then we started picking a higher gear and using less revs, and the thing started to behave itself a bit, and we ended up quite quick on the last couple of runs, purely simply by changing up the gear and just using the bottom end of the rev range rather than the top end of the rev range. Because the cam, well, it's a crane cam from the UK, and the cam comes in at about $2.5 grand, and it'll just rev and rev and rev and rev. I haven't revved it past 8.5 because I don't blow the leg thing up. But it just keeps going.
Wow.
And once it gets going, it goes. It's got 11.5 to 1 compression ratio, flat top Keith Black pistons from the States, and Webbers. And yeah, it boogies along quite nicely. And the problem is it's so small and so light. It's 1,080 kilos.
Is it really?
And that's even with the roll cage and all the plating that we put into it to go and do the classic Outback Rally, which is a desert rally basically in Alice Springs. So we had durability and endurance in mind rather than light weight and speed. So I've got another shell wrapped up.
Okay, just in case, huh?
And yeah, but it won't be a heavy one. It will be a lighter one.
Oh right, yeah.
So it'll probably
so wait, you do another car or?
If the missus permits.
Right, okay.
And if we went Tats Lotto tomorrow, we'll start again. But yeah, look.
So what do you to experience more power, or do you want? What do you want out of that car? If you ever get that other dream?
I'd never built one of these before. I built lots of Subarus and I've built lots of other rally cars with my background. Minis, Datsuns, V8 Commodores, Mitsubishis, all that sort of stuff. But I've never built one of these puppies before. And it wasn't built with the priority of winning stuff. It was built just to say I've got one. And just to have a V8 Rover, V8 TR7. And I've got that now, so I look after it and nurse it. And
Well, the other one, if what would be the purpose of this other building the other shower? Is that?
It would be. I've learned so much, and I know I've learned a lot of mistakes building this, as you do when you do something you haven't done before. And there is an easier way and a faster way of doing a lot of stuff that I did. And for example, when we built the car. When I built the car and put the cage in it, we found that with the big rally seats, we couldn't fit in the car.
Right.
And I ended up having to cut the floor, and then when I did some investigation looking at what the works cars did, they actually cut the floor and dropped the floor where the seats mounted.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I had...
well, you got some, they naturally come sitting quite high, so you've got some give there anyway, haven't you, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I've dropped the seat mountings by 70 millimetres.
Right.
So we can fit into the car.
Right, so the mounting. So
the actual floor where the seat is mounted is 7. Well, if you have a look under here, you'll see there's a box that actually hangs. There's a box that hangs down there.
Oh yeah.
And the seat is mounted in that box.
And you've still got plenty of clearance there. As
well, we've got clearance on the ground, and we've also got clearance for our heads from the roof.
Well, it doesn't even sit below the blooming shaft there, does it?
Yes, there was a lot of learning experiences that I encountered over the years of putting the car together. Yeah. Trial and error, as they say.
Yeah.
Now we've got it to the stage. Toby, who's a great mate, he's like my virtual brother. And I went off and we decided, let's have a bit of a crack at the Victorian Rally Championship in the classic cars.
Yeah.
So we did. And we ended up doing pretty well. And we ended up getting the Victorian Rally Championship for classic cars last year.
Nice one.
So Toby's
that sticks it to all these Aussies and what slagging off our
little beauty
classic
here.
car.
Yeah.
And our main competitors were V8
I
Commodores.
bet. Yeah.
And I mean, it's friendly. It's a great rivalry. There's a great camaraderie within the rallying fraternity here in Victoria, and it's probably the best place in Australia for rallying is Victoria.
Right.
There's a lot of people that do rallying in other states, but here there seems to be a good bond, a good fellowship, I guess, where we all help each other and we're friendly, but we still want to go out there and beat the other guys.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we were very fortunate with that last year, and it surprised us at the last round.
Yeah.
We when we finished it, and bits and pieces came through, and we weren't focused on it at all during the year. We just wanted to go and enjoy the car, and enjoy the rallies, enjoy being in the forest.
Yeah.
And we basically did a Bradbury with it, and it fell into our lap.
Like I say, we've long suffered our favourite car being the object of derision and whatever. How have you noticed a change in people's response or perception of it over the last few years? Would you say?
Well, a lot of people were very sceptical about it, but in actual fact, yesterday I was talking to a photographer who was in Boysdale, and he got an absolute cracker photograph of this. And I was talking to him, and he said, people love hearing this because it's different.
Right,
and they love seeing it because it's different.
Yeah.
Which it is. Yeah. But and it gives me a little bit of a sense of, well, you know what?
You did make the right choice.
I have. I've got what I wanted as a kid growing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was saying to Danny earlier, you know, my love for this came out of the fact that I literally sat in a apple tree at the end of our street waiting for one of these to go by after I first saw it in a magazine when I was 6 or 7, and then Star Wars came out, and it was like an X-wing fighter going down on wheels going down the road, as far as I'm concerned. Danny, being a couple of years older than me, remembers a certain Joanna Lumley, aka Purdy, from the Avengers. The Avengers. It was a yellow one, wasn't it? Was theirs a yellow one?
I think it was either yellow or green. I can't remember. I was too focused on Joanna Lumley.
Yeah, right. What's his name? Old Patrick McGowan had the Broadspeed XJ.
He had the Bentley, didn't he? He had the old green Bentley.
Oh, he must have been in the later series. He had the Broadspeed 2 XJC.
Yes. Yeah, and there was the other guy. There was the third guy.
Oh, the third person.
Yeah,
what did he have, a Dolomite or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. They're all British sailing cars.
Yeah, all British sailing cars,
I guess one of the big things with this is that when I started researching and looking around the internet, I actually found a model of what I wanted. And that's what I thought, I'm going to have a real one of those one day.
Let's have a look. Is that a Trax one or?
I bought it from England.
Oh, right, so not
years ago.
Yeah.
And
so you're near.
Yeah.
You got the
so
number?
we're getting the Lombard REC livery done.
Beautiful.
And that will be in place for the Rally Retro Day next weekend.
Nice one. Which I'm hopefully going to be sitting next to you.
Yeah. Or if I'm not able to drive it, Toby
Unfortunately,
will
we've
drive.
both. Well, you've done your left leg in ACL, or is it no?
Achilles,
and I've got a big fat ankle from tendonitis as well. So
we're just getting old, mate.
Yes, exactly. Right, well, mate, so actually, let me just have a quick, I didn't get a decent look.
Do you want me to put some lights on for you? Yeah, I'll turn some lights on so you can actually see it, because it's very dark in here.
It is. Oh, nice and, oh my God, I can see I'm going to have a right old mare getting in this on Saturday.
Yeah, you'll fold up and get in there.
Okay, look at that. Wow. That should... That's amazing. So yeah, getting hold of parts in for the dash in that regard.
Well, that's what they ran. They ran a Branks Trip Meester in the works cars. They didn't have that fancy hydraulic handbrake.
No.
Yeah,
so the body of the dash is there, isn't it? Still.
Well, I've tried to make the dash look as authentic as possible with the works cars, and even down to the stage that I got Lucas Instruments or Smith's Instruments from the UK for it. Yeah. And
okay.
It's
That's quite the thing, buddy. Quite the thing. Yeah, that's.
But as you can see, it's a tight squeeze to get in there.
Yes, yeah. Well, it looks a bit roomier than Keith's Lancia 037.
Oh, isn't that a beautiful car?
Absolutely.
That is an absolute credit to that man to build that with his English wheel and his shades.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Which he made.
Yes.
Okay, mate. Well,
Bit of a legend.
well, we're going to. So, who had their hands on this then? When the build? That's you say you'd.
I did everything apart from paint it.
Wow.
And the sign writing. The bits and pieces, like I said, came and I made them fit.
Wow.
All the welding, the roll cage. My friend Glenn Watson from Shiftworks built the gearbox.
Yeah.
And we started off with Leyland LT77 gearboxes, but they're like 130 kilos, very, very heavy.
Yeah.
So now there is an Ivan Albans straight cut close ratio dog box.
Right.
And when we first put it in the car, the intercom wouldn't work. Well, it did, but it wasn't good enough because it was making so much noise.
Wow.
And there's no insulation, so you're sitting on the gearbox.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had to go and buy a noise cancelling intercom and helmets so we could actually hear
Right. Yeah.
with the noise. Plus you got a pair of Webbers
Yeah.
and extractors.
Absolutely.
And it's
Well, let's have a
incredibly
look
hot.
underneath. Oh no, did we have a look underneath yet?
No, we haven't.
No, we
opened
haven't.
it.
Well,
No,
let's
no.
have a look. I mean, I know.
It's
supposed
very
to be.
It's very scruffy.
Oh my gosh, it's supposed to be dusty. You've just been driving it.
I haven't cleaned under the bonnet because, and being a fiberglass bonnet, it's
yeah.
quite easy to get off because normally the bonnets hinge forward,
Yes.
but this is
Size of them.
as the original works cars were with a pair of Webbers on the V8. And a lot of the stuff has been custom made, obviously, because you can't just buy it. It's very scruffy. Apologies for how dirty it is under here.
No.
But everything has been made down to the power steering because the car didn't have power steering.
Right. Okay.
And with all the Subaru bits and pieces I had lying around, I thought, I've got all this stuff sitting here.
Yeah.
I might as well utilise it.
So where does that come into play with regard to competition? And you know,
Those freedoms that exist with this classic car don't include stuff like your suspension pickup points have to be the same.
Yeah.
You can't change those.
yeah,
The engine block and the engine has to be a Leyland 3.5 litre, which it
Yeah.
is. It's got the Offenhauser manifold, which the original cars had, the Lynx adapter, and the Webbers,
yeah.
the alternator, power steering is Subaru because I had a quick ratio steering rack.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this thing being so tail happy because of the wheel spin, I couldn't drive it if I didn't have a quick ratio steering rack.
Right. Wow.
So the steering rack gets a workout,
Yeah.
as I do.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
And it's funny when every time we get photos of this thing, it's not going in a straight line.
No, I can imagine. Yeah.
It just breaks into wheel spin, and
Right.
it's just awesome fun to drive. And like I said, back in the 70s, watching the likes of Roger Clark and
Yeah.
Burr Eklund and Malcolm Wilson and Tony Pond driving these things,
Absolutely.
the noise is buried in my brain.
Yes.
I've
yes.
got to have the V8.
Through that Welsh forest or wherever it might be. And,
Yeah.
No, I wasn't going to.
Well, hopefully it will.
I wasn't going to ask, but I was going to wait until Saturday. But seeing as though you're offering, we'll have a start of the engine if it's.
Well, it's a nice warm day, so it probably will be smart. But I might have to take this boot
Sure.
off.
Oh mate, I don't want to put you through that. Oh god.
Oh no,
Yeah, but I want you ready for Saturday. Don't want you bloody putting yourself back.
I'll be
out.
right if I can get. Oh, just between you, me, and the wall. I love the sound this thing makes.
Yes.
And I've got to get myself match fit, as they say.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hang on. The steering grip is there.
Bit of effort to get into it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that'll
It's a bit raucous, but
put a smile
don't
on
you
your
just
face,
don't you just love that V8?
absolutely, mate.
I love it.
That's stunning. That's stunning. All right, as we say, that's back turning over on Saturday at Retro Rally. I'll see you there. Hopefully, you're going to be driving me about.
Yep, I'll just look after this
Yeah.
this geriatric condition I've got.
Don't worry about that. We'll see you there. All right, buddy. Thank you.
And you'll definitely get riding it. If I won't be driving it, Toby will drive it.
Yeah, all
So-
right, nice one.